Another day passed, and I was no closer to breaking the curse, so I went to one place where I was hoping to find some answers. The library. Books have knowledge in them, after all. Books do hold important information, right? Maybe I'll find something. Anything. Royal, of course, was arranging some books when I got there. It felt intimidating being in the same room with him, but for my sake, and theirs, I'd endure this grumpy bear's presence. Aw, sweet grumpy bear. I began browsing through the shelves. The table I'm using is now piled with books that held no clue to breaking the curse. What sort of books would have information on breaking spells anyway? Fairy tales. Yes. Fairy tales? Perhaps Gold is the princess, and she's just waiting for a kiss from her prince. Hey, Royal, get in there. This is hopeless. I slumped on the table and frowned.
Hey, you better make sure to put those books back to where they belong.
I scowled at him. I will, Mother. Royal went back to what he was doing, but not before giving me a deadly glare. I wondered how Dion was able to get along with him. He was moody, grumpy, and scary. The complete opposite of Dion. So, how did you and Dion become best of friends anyway?
None of your concern, girl.
And he brushed me off just like that. I tried again. But you are his friend, right?
Or so he claims.
Are you not? Royal stopped what he was doing, his shoulders relaxing.
A mere butler like me didn't deserve his friendship, yet he still offered it to me. He treated me as an equal, not as a servant. Seems like he's just one lonely fellow. That's why he even has me as a friend.
I was surprised that Royal revealed so much when he was this reserved and grumpy. You think Dion is lonely? Thinking of Dion's bright and cheerful attitude, it was hard to imagine that he was lonely. But then again, anyone could mask loneliness with a smile.
Probably. Lord Sol and Dion used to be so close together that...
Royal quickly stopped himself and glared at me.
You weren't supposed to hear that.
Eh?
Don't you dare say a single word about this to him.
I raised my hands in surrender. I won't. Sheesh. Sol and Dion used to be close. Well, it's only natural since they are brothers, so why have they become so distant? I shook my head. I was supposed to focus on breaking the curse, not meddle in their personal affairs, which are directly related to the curse. I resumed to searching for clues to no avail. Seems like the library is now off of my list. Though I did not expect to find an easy answer, the disappointment weighed heavy in my chest. I went back to my room, defeated. There you are, love. I noticed Dion standing outside my door, obviously waiting for me. Hey there, Dion. And will he please stop calling me that? I thought he would stop using that nickname after a while, but it seemed like it has become his favorite word since I came here. You don't like that name? How about Honey, then? Or perhaps you prefer to be called Darling? My honey? Oh, touch my fingers to my temples. I don't want your weird nicknames. I simply want to be called by my name. But everyone already calls you that, he protested. I almost giggled when he puffed out his fuzzy cheeks. You're special to me. That's why I want to call you something special as well. I felt an impending headache. Dion continued talking, oblivious to my frown. Which reminds me. Dion glanced around as if making sure that we were alone. I raised a brow at him, wondering what he was up to this time. When he spoke again, his voice was low. Meet me out here tonight. Eh? Why is that? It's a surprise. Just promise you'll be here, okay? I stared at him for a long time, thinking back from that moment where he asked me to hide him from Miss Maria. One couldn't hide from her forever, especially if you were living under the same roof as her. I was spared from her wrath, but I didn't think I would be lucky the second time. You're not planning to do anything stupid again, are you? Because if you are, I don't want to get involved this time.
Of course not. I won't do anything to hurt you, my love.
Ah, it seems like both of you are getting along well. I turned and saw Sol walking towards us, greeting us with his usual warm smile.
Yes, we're getting along really, really well. Right, love?
I apologize if my big brother gets you into trouble. He is really good at that. He gave me an apologetic smile. I suspected that Sol's comment was meant to be a joke, but somehow it felt like Sol was serious about what he said. Dion scowled at his brother.
Hey! I'm not getting anyone in trouble.
Aw. Sol touched a paw to his forehead. Just don't involve Lady Aura with our mess. We've already involved enough people with this curse. This silenced Dion, his expression darkening at Sol's words. Seeing how I've never witnessed this side of Dion before, what was happening must be really serious. Sol stared at him, his expression unreadable. Was it sadness? Regret? Anger? The two of them used to be close, according to Royal, so what could have possibly broken their bond? I was curious, but thought it best to keep it to myself. I was in no position to ask that personal question, especially when I was just an outsider here. Well, if you'll excuse me, I have some clothes to sew. At these words, I couldn't keep quiet any longer. You sew? I was so surprised by my own question that I quickly covered my mouth with my hand. But Sol chuckled slightly with his face bright red, causing the heavy atmosphere to finally lighten up. I do. That's amazing! Can I see your works? Perhaps. I can show some of them to you someday. Yay! Sol coughed into his paw. Well then. I'll see you both around. I hope you're comfortable with your stay here, my lady. I am. Thank you. Sol smiled at me, then his gaze shifted to Dion, who was still silent. And then he moonwalked out of the room. Sol looked like he wanted to say something, but then he shook his head and finally left. Dion let out a long sigh, as though he had been holding his breath the entire time.
If only I had the courage to tell him the truth.
Huh? Dion flinched. I was probably not supposed to hear him.
Sorry, I was talking to myself.
Are you alright?
Yes, I'm fine.
I did not believe him, but I was not sure how to respond.
I better leave now as well. Don't forget to meet me here tonight.
Sure. Dion scurried away without another word. What was that all about? I remembered Sol as the heir of the family, but firstborn sons were supposed to hold that title. So why isn't it Dion? Could the family title be the reason why they're so distant with each other? So many questions swam in my head, refusing to leave without an answer. But the problem was I didn't have even one. What have I gotten myself into? I touched my locket for comfort. Mother, I hope I'll get the answers I need soon. Man, everyone's staying as bear is a lot longer this time around. I've skipped a whole bunch of stuff too. I stood on my tiptoes and tried to walk as quietly as I could. But a chef is never trained to sneak around mansions in the middle of the night. Oh, how did I get into this mess again? Oh. Flashback? What is the surprise you're talking about?
I want you to come meet someone special.
Dion has someone he considers special, huh? So he wants to introduce us to his sister. Okay, transformation incoming soon. And hopefully we're not out for like weeks on end. Could it be Lily? It can't be, since I've already met her. But why do we have to do this in the middle of the night?
What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell, love? Perhaps we should go visit my sister some other day.
I'm finally going to meet Gold?
Hurry up, Aura.
Dion kept his voice low, and I tried to do the same.
Don't you want to meet my sister?
I'd love to meet your sister, but why are we going now of all times? It's the middle of the night. Can't I just meet her the normal way? Sneaking out like this feels like I'm doing something illegal.
If Royal finds out, he'll be angry, and I know you won't like it if he gets angry. So it has to be now.
All this time, I was worried that Miss Maria would be the one to get angry at us. But instead, it was Royal's wrath I should be worried about. But why would he get angry? I shook my head. There were too many questions waiting on me for answers.
Then again, it might be fun to torment Royal a little bit. He's been moody lately.
I frowned at Dion's chuckling. Did he take anything seriously? He takes everything too seriously, that's a problem. Dion, when will you ever become more mature and responsible? Dion froze. What a thing to say to someone you've only known for a few days. Also, probably sting to the heart, because his dad maybe always used to say that to him. Or Soul. I obviously hit a sore spot.
Responsible, huh?
Dion murmured. He stayed quiet, with a thoughtful look on his face. I fidgeted in the silence, almost regretting my words. At last, he spoke.
Everyone has been telling me that.
Dion smiled, and I was surprised with his sudden change of mood.
But if that is your wish, I will try to be more mature. But I'm only doing it for you.
I rolled my eyes. Yeah, that's maturity right there.
Give me some credit, will you? I've been this way for a long time. It's hard to change personalities overnight.
You do have a point, I suppose.
Good. I'm glad you think so.
I didn't say anything else, following Dion and wondering what happened to him in the past. His carefree attitude and immaturity. It was as if those traits were just a facade to hide who he really is.
We're here.
Dion pointed at the large double doors. I carefully opened it and tiptoed into the room, remembering to close the door behind us.
Aura, meet my sister, Gold. Gold, this is Aura.
Oh. Just got really quiet. Dion gestured at the lovely porcelain doll sitting on a velvet settee. It's a pleasure to meet you, Gold. I paused, expecting her to answer like the others, but she remained silent. I suddenly remembered what they mentioned before about her being a lifeless doll.
Beautiful, isn't she? I just wish that I could hear her voice once again. Gold. She's my precious little sister, and yet I couldn't do anything to protect her from this curse.
This is the first time Dion has looked so angry and frustrated. He must love his sister very much. Don't blame yourself, Dion. It wasn't your fault.
It seems like I'm not really capable of protecting anyone. But then, I guess the curse has its perks because Gold is safer now that he's not here.
There was anger in his voice as he spoke. He? Who was Dion talking about? I cringed when my locket burned against my chest again. I yanked it from under my shirt and stared at it, expecting it to be cold just like before, but it remained strangely hot in my palm. My heart! Ugh! Did you hear that?
Hear what?
I stayed silent and listened, but the voice never came back. Must have been my imagination. Hey! Someone recognizes the locket, finally. Dion gasped when he caught sight of the locket.
That locket. It looks just like the one Gold had. Where'd you get it?
My mother gave it to me. She told me to keep it until I met a certain person. Dion's brow quirked as if he did not quite believe me, but he didn't argue.
A certain person?
Yes, but I have no idea who she meant.
Can I see it?
Of course. I took the necklace off and offered it to him. My neck felt a little bare after wearing it for so long. Dion tried to pry it open with his paws, but the locket wouldn't budge. It was already broken when she gave it to me, so it's impossible to open it.
There's so much rust.
I leaned closer, staring at my locket. It was always a bit rusty, but it didn't have that much rust on there before. Dion stared at it for a long time.
Why do I get the feeling that this...
Before he could continue what he was about to say, he shook his head and sighed.
Impossible. I'm sure there are many shops that sell lockets like this one.
I was about to ask what he meant when a knock caused both of us to freeze.
It's Royal. Quick, we must hide.
I opened my mouth to ask how he knew it was Royal, but then thought better of it. Aw, he always knocks before he comes in, that's sweet. If Royal heard me now, we would both be in big trouble. Great. I'm starting to think like Dion. I looked around wildly. Where could I hide? Dion was small. He could fit anywhere. But I, on the other hand, where should I hide? Oh boy. Wardrobe seems like the sensible option. It's always a good place to hide. Under the bed, usually you get found out, so I guess I'll hide under the bed. And hope that's the worst of the two. Without needing further persuasion from Dion, I dove under the bed just in time to hear the door creak open. I held my breath, afraid that even the smallest movement would allow him to find us. Royal nudged the door closed before shuffling over to Gold and kneeling before her. Ah, my heart. I don't know if I can go through this again.
Gold, I'm so sorry. Please, forgive me.
I hope I'm not saying this out loud, because that's going to be a bit of a trouble. Why is he apologizing? Oh, I am asking Dion under the bed. I turned to Dion for answers, but he remained silent, gazing at Royal intently. If I didn't know that he could talk, I'd have thought he was an actual teddy bear. I waited, expecting Royal to talk more, but to my disappointment, those were the only words he spoke. After a few minutes of tense silence, he finally left the room. After making sure that he wouldn't be coming back, I crawled out of our hiding place. Okay, well that worked out. What was that all about? Dion hesitated, debating whether he should tell me or not. Eventually, he gave in, sighing.
Royal blames himself for what happened to Gold, because he thinks that he wasn't able to fulfill his stupid childhood promise that he'll always protect her.
I thought back to how Royal became so protective when it came to Gold. Maybe he was in love with her. And if it wasn't for my meddling in one certain route. Smoothing some of the wrinkles from my dress, I shook my head at Dion. I don't think it's stupid at all. Dion was quiet for a while, and it made me think that maybe I had said something wrong.
We should go before anyone finds us here.
Right. And in case I ever forget, do remind me not to sneak into someone's room again.
But that would take away the fun, don't you think?
Your idea of fun is more dangerous than anything else. Dion shrugged.
I like the challenge.
We finally bid each other goodnight, and I turned in the direction of my room. But Dion dashed back over to me and touched a paw to my leg, stopping me in my tracks.
Give me your hand, Aura.
Puzzled, I held my hand out to him. He took my pinky and shook it. What was this about?
I've thought about what you've said before. You're right. Protecting someone you care about isn't stupid at all. I, of all people, should know that, so I apologize for what I said earlier.
I shook my head at him. There's nothing to apologize for, Dion.
I'm really happy that you came into our lives, Aura. It's as if you brought colors into my dull life once again. Somehow, you've given me hope.
My eyes widened in surprise. I thought the exact same thing about him before.
That's why I will do my best to protect your precious smile. This will be my promise to you, to always make you happy. This time I will surely keep it.
This time? I appreciate your thoughtfulness, Dion. I was really touched by his words and could not help but smile. He suddenly looked a lot more serious.
I like you, Aura.
I smiled warmly, resting my hand on his paw. Aw, I like you too, Dion. You're a good friend, you know, but... Poor Dion got teddy bear zoned.
That's not what I meant. I like you as in I'm in love with you.
My jaw dropped at his sudden confession, and I quickly let out a laugh to cover my surprise. Very funny, Dion. You really are a joker. I expected him to burst into fits of laughter, but he frowned, still dead serious. I frowned back at him until realization dawned upon me. You're not joking. Dion nodded. I didn't know what to say. It's not every day a toy bear confesses to you, after all. My goodness, we've moved along very quickly in this relationship. Haven't even turned him back into a human yet. I was imagining things. Living here with toys for company must be driving me crazy.
I really like you, Aura. In fact, I may have fallen in love with you since the day I first saw you. And I'd like nothing more than for you to marry me someday.
Wow. You're even more bold than Soul was. The image of me marrying a teddy bear popped in my head, and I had to bite back a smile. I really am going nuts. I bent down and patted his head. Do you even know what you're saying, Dion? Humans can't marry toys.
Technically, I'm a human who was turned into a toy, so I'm still human.
I've been with all of them for more than 3 weeks already, but somehow, the thought of them as humans still felt unreal. Dion pouted, his whole body drooping.
Do you hate me, Aura?
Flinching, I quickly shook my head. No, of course not.
Then be my wife.
I don't think this is how this works.
Please.
Isn't this a bit too fast? Besides, we've only just met a few weeks ago. I've always dreamed of marrying a handsome prince ever since I was young, but never did I imagine that one day I'd end up marrying a toy. I mean, technically he's still a prince, so that could work. Technicality of the toy aside.
You won't be able to say no once I turn back into a human.
Are you sure you even know what you're saying?
Of course I do. I'm perfectly sober.
I groaned inwardly. He really was persistent. I patted his head once again. Then you can try to make me fall for you. Though I'm warning you, I'm pretty hard to please. He beamed at me, looking more happy than I'd ever seen him since I first came here.
Ah, a challenge.
He beckoned to me to come closer. Don't come closer to him. You know he's gonna steal a smooch. I lowered my head, wondering what he was going to do. What are you... Yep, I knew it. Please, please, please give me a picture of this. I need it in my life. He didn't give me a chance to finish, leaning forward and kissing me on the mouth. Ah! No, I need a picture of this. I need it. Why does it not exist?
I love you, Aura.
You? My first kiss. Wait, does that even count? I remembered kissing my toys when I was little and laughed at the thought. It definitely does not count at all.
I have a request.
Even though I dismissed the kiss from counting, I still glared at Dion for what he did. What is it? Dion looked at the floor and began fidgeting with his paws.
Can you accompany me tonight.
What?
I don't have any bad intentions. Please, at least until I fall asleep. I really didn't want to tell you this, but I've been having nightmares for the past few days, and knowing that I have someone with me will make me feel better.
Dion tilted his head back, staring with pleading eyes, and for the first time I saw fear and sadness in him. I was still unhappy about the kiss, but decided to give him the benefit of the doubt. Oh, all right, but just this once.
Thank you.
Can't believe we're actually doing this. Dion's room was just as gorgeous and even larger than my own. I sat down on a sofa, making myself comfortable as he sauntered towards his bed.
I know I've been asking so much from you, Aura, so
I cut him off. No need for explanations or apologies. You're my friend, Dion. You all are, so if staying here will make you feel better, then I'll be more than happy to help you.
Thank you.
Dion was silent before he turned to me with a somber expression.
Can I say something, Aura? You don't have to do anything except to listen.
Of course. I was like, every time the music just stops abruptly, I get very nervous.
I've never talked about this with anyone else. Not even my brother. But with you, it feels like I can tell you everything. Mother, she was the one I could always talk to. That's why when she passed away, I kept everything to myself.
I was puzzled. But Soul, Gold, and Royal have always been by your side. Dion slowly shook his head. For a moment, he seemed far away.
No. This burden is mine to carry alone, and I won't let anyone get hurt because of me again.
Dion.
I miss her, even after all these years. After her death, all my father cared about was wealth and status. He became so blinded by power that I barely recognized him anymore. He was no longer the father I knew and loved.
His expression darkened. He paused, hesitating, then started to speak.
I know you've been wondering why Soul is the heir and not me.
I could only nod in response.
I was originally the heir of the family. I was only 10 when my father officially announced that I would inherit that title. Believe it or not, I took it seriously, and I worked so hard to please him. If not, we would suffer the consequences, and I'd rather take the punishment alone than have Soul and Gold be blamed for my mistakes.
I strode over to the bed and sat on the edge so I could squeeze his hand. I never imagined that Dion had such a rough childhood, especially since he always has such a happy-go-lucky and carefree personality. Dion squeezed back. Aw.
I used to be so close to Soul and Gold. The three of us were inseparable, but we started to grow apart after I inherited the title. I became the perfect son my father wanted me to be. I gained power and respect, but it made me lose the people who are most important to me. One time, I snuck out of my lesson just so I could play with Soul and Gold. My teacher got so angry, his face flushed red as a tomato.
Dion laughed as he recalled those memories.
But then Father also got mad. That was the last time I ever played with them. I wish I could have done something differently back then. I really miss my baby sister, but I can't let her see how things have gotten worse between Soul and I. So if this curse ends, how do I face her?
Dion? Dion didn't answer my question, and I realized that he already fell asleep. I gingerly stroked his head. My eyes softened in understanding as I watched Dion's small frame sleeping on such a big bed. He looked so vulnerable and lonely. He never got the chance to tell me why Soul was the heir, and what was going on between them. Dion. Even though he already told me this much, I know in my heart that he carried a heavy burden. I can only imagine how wicked his father was. No wonder the Toymaker punished him. But why involve the whole family as well? Dion doesn't deserve this. This conversation just made things even more complicated by adding more unanswered questions to my list. Dion is softly snoring now, and while I did say that I would only stay until he fell asleep, I didn't have the heart to leave him in this large empty room. Perhaps I'll stay a little longer. Give him a snug. Give that bear a snug.